Welcome to the Preseason Rankings show here as we'll start off a new NCAA Baseball league here on the Pedal to the Metal Sports channel. Here today with my co-host here. And we've already simulated a couple years. Last year winning it was the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And the runner-up was the Texas Longhorns. Now, the top prospects this year, as randomly generated, went to, I believe, the number 2 prospect went to South Dakota State University, and the number 1 overall prospect went to Ole Miss. So, we'll start off today here by our predictions, and we'll start off with both our number 20 teams. My number 20 team here, and there's only 20 teams in this league, and my 20th ranked team was Texas Tech University. They're just not really last year had a rough year and had a couple seniors even leave this year. Couldn't really pull anybody that big onto the team. So I'm just really not seeing them gonna do great this year.
I picked UCLA because, they're new this year in the league and I haven't seen them yet. So usually when I don't see people first year, I usually put them down. So that's why I have UCLA on the bottom for me.
And my number 2 team, this may come as a surprise, but it is the national runner-ups last year, Texas. And my reasoning behind this is they just lost a lot of star players. They still have a lot of great players on this team, but it was kind of a Cinderella story last year, and they lost even players from that. So I'm not really seeing too much power and pop to their bats. The lineup, their pitching staff is still good. Other than that, I don't really see much coming from Texas this year.
My 19 pick is Southern Miss. I just picked them because a lot of teams are above them on their fielding and batting. They need to get their bats going, and if they can get those going, they can be a good team. But they kind of struggle on getting their bats going, and their pitchers, they may need a little work on those.
They do have a very good prospect in their ace, but do you think he can really carry the whole team? He can only pitch. As we saw, we already simulated the season, and South Dakota State played them, and they even beat a game with him on the mound. So,
yeah. And if they get into the tournaments, they're gonna be pretty bad pitcher wise. If they make him pitch a lot, because if he pitches a lot, he's not going to be ready for the next game, and that may be a deciding game. So you never know. So that's why I have them down there.
Yep, and my number 18 team is Ole Miss. Despite having the number 1 overall prospect at third base, this team just doesn't really hasn't showed me in the past years. And we did play an exhibition game between the number 1 and number 2 prospect teams. He can hit the ball. He's great on the baseball field, but just his surrounding cast isn't good enough to compete in this league.
All right, and my number 18 was UNC. They have good players, just like the last team. They were actually pretty surprising to me last season. They did a lot of good things last season. Just there were some heartbreaking moments in that season that puts them down there for me. So, UNC...
It's the consistency with UNC. They go on hot streaks, but still didn't even make the playoffs last year. So.
Yeah. See, that's some of their heartbreaking moments. They can get on a streak, but if they get in a slump, they usually stay there for a while.
Yeah. And a very streaky team in North Carolina there.
Yeah.
My number 17 team is the North Dakota State Bison. Lost 3 good hitters, lost their ace. I look for him to be a down year for the Bison. And they are looking to rebuild with their freshmen, but this year will be a down year for North Dakota State Bison.
And my 17 is NC State, North Carolina State. They have a lot of good players like all the teams do. But like, they have good hitters and they have good pitchers. Just, if they can't get the stuff going, you know, they have one really good hitter, but he can get the bats going, but they usually just hit fly balls, and that will not help them unless they get a lot of errors. So that's why, and then their fielding isn't that good, you know. Their shortstops and second baseman and first baseman, you know, they haven't been doing too hot as far as getting to the gaps. So that's why I have them there.
My number 16 team is Southern Miss, a playoff team last year, have a great ace, and I looked for their pitching staff to carry them this year. Have a very good ace. He's only a sophomore, and also their bullpen is very stacked. They're very good defensively, and look for them to surprise a few people this year.
And my number 16 is Stenson. I have them there because they have two good pitchers. They have bats. Their fielding isn't too hot though. Their center fielder, particularly their outfielders need to get better.
All right, we're gonna do 15 through 10 here, and my 15 to 10 going in order from greatest to least is NC State, Duke, UNC, Arkansas, Stetson, Florida. Now, what really comes out to me on this one is Arkansas has a great player in Derek Major, and he will lead the league in a lot of statistics this year if he can get going. But his supporting cast is not too great. I feel like if his other teammates could just get base hits, I feel like they could even jump into the top 5. Pitching needs to work on too, but also just a great all-around team, or a decent all-around team there with a very good star. And also their Stetson a lot higher than you had it at 16. I have them sitting at 11. Just kind of a under the radar team. Don't have a bunch of stars, and they won't really wow too many people because they don't play with exciting. They don't hit a lot of home runs. They're just kind of a team that will just get base hits and look to fly under a lot of people's radars.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, my 15 through 10, starting at 15, is NDSU, 14 Texas Tech, 13 Ole Miss, 12 UCLA, 11 Duke, and 10 Arkansas. You know, Duke is really, I think a lot of people have them as the underdog.
Yeah, last year had a heartbreaking loss to South Dakota State in the second round of the playoff. Or I think it was the first round. They were the 2 seed, and the 7 seed Jackrabbits beat them. You guys didn't see that because we did not start the channel at that time, but still, they could surprise a lot of teams. I do agree with that.
And we do play as SDSU too, just so you guys know. You know, what I really like on Texas Tech is they do not give up. They keep on fighting until the end. They will battle as hard as they have to win the game. They don't give up. That's just how they play. And that's why I really put them up high, because I like that. And I think they can get a lot done if they don't give up.
All right, my 9 through 5 is, starting from 9, UCLA, Clemson, Minnesota, South Dakota State, and Georgia. Now, Georgia, very good team, great pitching. They have some bats, too, at the top of the order. And if they had more rounded out bats and a better bullpen, obviously that's the perfect team. But they would be a lot better, even if their bottom of the lineup could just contribute a little bit. I feel like they'd be a lot better. And this might surprise some people, but the reigning national champions, Minnesota, I have them ranked 7th in the preseason rankings just because they lost their ace in Timber Jetterson. And the prospects they came in, that they brought in to replace the starting pitcher role, just doesn't really ring with me too well, and I think that team will disappoint a lot of people this year.
my 9 through 5, starting at 9, is Florida, ECU, Texas, UNC, and SDSU I have at 5. You know, I really like the SDSU team. They have some good
Also,
fielders.
the number 2 player in this year's recruiting battle at a starting pitcher.
That's a good point. That's also why I put him up there. You know, in the name of Joe Butterman, last year he wasn't too good. But
Joe Butterman. ECU?
Wrong name.
Ricky Chakras?
No, the shortstop.
Bubba
Butterman.
No, it's not Butterman.
What is it?
Bassinet.
Oh, Bubba Bassinet. He was in the slump last year. He has made a lot of improvements. As we said, we did that exhibition match, and he showed a lot better things than last year.
Okay, my number 4 here is ECU. Joe Butterman, as you earlier stated, and Tyler Memphis. Just 2 knockout punch hitters. Just great power in the 2 and 3 slots there. And Tyler Memphis, only a junior this year, I believe. He's a junior or a sophomore. Can't remember off the top of my head. But that team will contend for a national title this year.
And now my number 4 is Oregon State. I have Oregon State because they have the bats, they have the speed in them, and they have the pitching. You know, their relief pitchers and their closer are really good. So if they can just get through like the first 6 innings with their starting pitcher, they should be good. Fielding wise, they can make plays if they need to. And if they need to hit the ball, they can hit the ball. It just depends on how the game is going. And if they get in a slump, they can fight out of it really easily as long as they keep their heads up. So back to you.
Number 3, I have Oregon State. You just stated all good things about Oregon State, and I look for them to also contend. All 4 of these teams, I think, could contend. Very, very high chances of contending for a national title.
And now I have Stanford. I say wow to Stanford. They have absolutely really good bats. Their fielding is amazing. Their pitcher, he is a stud. That's literally all I have to say about him. He is a stud.
Stanford, I look to probably have obviously the second best odds at a national title from my rankings here. But Stanford, if you get hot, you better watch out because the freight train is coming.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Now my second is Minnesota. A lot of people doubt them, but they still have a lot of good fielders. You know, they lost their ace, but I'm talking about in the name of Irie Quee. You know,
very good fielding second baseman there.
He has the speed to get there. He can make the play if they have to.
Doesn't have the great bats, but
if he can get on base, you better watch out because he's around the bases in no time.
My number 1 and your number 1 as well, the consensus number 1, Florida State. Now this year, a lot of great improvements. They always seem to get beat out in the first round of the playoffs, but I think the heartbreak ends here. Florida State breaks through, wins their first ever national title.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. They're just a good team overall. They have good teamwork. They never give up. And I think this will be the year they contend, just like you said.
Yep, and we'll look forward to spending the season with you as we'll go through the season following the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, and we'll also give updates every 10 games. We will give you an update on the new rankings. And I believe they play 74 games in the season. So we'll simulate a few, play a couple in there, and we'll update you with league leaders. And we'll also give out the awards and follow through the playoffs at the end of the season. And we hope to bring you on the ride with us.